Good evening, and welcome to Trudy Haynes and Friends, Kathy Lee, our original Kathy Lee, Jerome Roberts, the Philly Gator, and today we're very happy to welcome back Gary Williams with the subject tonight, the unemployment rate that's existing all over the country as well as right here in our own community. And it's a bad one because I'm confused. They're seemingly talking about their jobs, nobody's taking them. And on the other hand, our unemployment rate is going up or down. How does it go? Up or down? Yeah. So Gary, straighten this out, honey.
Okay. The statistics that I've gotten come from PhillyWorks.org and from 16 years of age and upward or in the workplace and various zip codes, there's 20,000 um, as of April 20th, 21 from that www.phillyworks.org, and it's broken down to zip codes. And some of the zip codes that are mentioned are where the high crime is. So it has a lot of association with being unemployed to the crime that's happening throughout the city of Philadelphia. So if people want to know information on these statistics, they can go to www.philaworks.org. So the reason that we're talking about this subject is because of the fact that the young people that are out in the streets are causing harm to themselves because they're not employed, they're not in school, but that's another subject matter. But what we're dealing with now is how they're getting monies. So how are they going to be able to get monies if they are unemployed and there's no jobs hiring them? And I know that there are signs in stores that I've seen traveling around where they've been having, we're hiring, but I think these youth feel like there's a quicker way to make a faster buck by being in the streets doing unscrupulous things to make money instead of uh, going to a job because they don't want to take $11 an hour because the minimum wage is still at $11 an hour for most jobs. So instead of moving it to $15 an hour, which would enhance someone wanting to work, they decide to take to the streets. So this is the issue with the unemployment.
Well, you guys are out there more than we women, although Kathy is out quite a bit, but I don't get around too much. But I see where the rates have gone up in most places. So what's holding the kids back?
One of the issues that are currently going on, Ms. Trudy, is, and it directly affects unemployment, is the pandemic, and the government was giving away so much money during the pandemic that it encouraged people not to work. Those benefits, those unemployment, the extra $300 to $700 a week that people were getting in unemployment benefits are set to expire at the end of September. And we will see what happens to the unemployment rate then, because many people who have had the benefit of the pandemic benefits will be, their benefits will run out, and let's see, will they return to the workforce?
Okay, now,
I see this.
Trudy,
Go ahead.
Trudy, I don't mean to cut you off,
Yeah.
but here we go again. Here we go again. I'm still in my prison shirt now. But here we go again. We're blaming the victims of the systems. It's not just a matter, in my opinion, of unemployment, it's underemployment that both Gary and Jerome talked about. And
Correct.
if you're living by the zip codes where the poverty in these communities is the highest, and I taught in Southwest Philadelphia, then the conditions are more exaggerated and exacerbated to fill the job markets available within the prison systems. So, where you find the most of the crime and everything, it's because the system is there to keep you within that certain caste system. If I keep you poor, I control you. if I control how much money it costs for you to buy food, or if I tell you don't grow this, if you want to work with the United States, once you take over the economic systems of a community, the educational systems of a community, the health systems of a community, you control the community. We need to stop blaming the kids on the streets. They're not doing anything different than the corporations that their fathers or mothers. I don't even want to even want to place their parents within the prison system. I don't know who out there has family members in the jail system, but they are all working. And until you empty the prisons and get rid of these systems, nothing's really going to change too much, because prisons didn't really even come into existence until after the Civil War, when African Americans were free, when Africans were freed from enslavement. That's when the prison system began to boom. In the
Okay.
1970s, the G7, that's what also happened, Gary. But who's going
Yeah.
to work for $11? $50 isn't enough.
That's
How is
the
$15
that's
enough?
that is the thing. So here's the thing. So let's take a zip code. In zip code 19146, African Americans comprise of 53% of the populations, while Caucasians comprise of 37%. So that's 13,000 souls amongst those other things. The influx of Caucasian professionals into Grays Ferry area, where the townhouses and condominiums have been built, and they offered like 10-year tax abatement programs. So when someone's moving into your neighborhood and you're being filtered out to another neighborhood where it's even more deprived, so I mean, where are you going to go for the jobs? I could see if the construction industry had said, you know what, we're moving into this neighborhood, and the city politicians I blame also, because if they know that this neighborhood is being rebuilt and the people coming going to be forced out, then why did they provide jobs for these youngsters that could train them? You know, there's
Why would they?
well, they need
Why
to.
would
This is the
they?
thing. Yeah, but
But
this
why
is the
would
thing
they?
because
Kathleen,
If doing that means they're preserving the system. Think
yeah,
systems thinking is systems thinking, Gary.
I
Everything you're saying
understand.
is true, but those are the symptoms of the system. So what do you
You,
So,
have to do?
Kathy, you're very definite about the system, and I can understand that. But we have to find ways to beat the system, or to try to beat it at least. We can't just stand by and say that's the system. We have to do something about it. So let's talk about a little bit what we can do. Where can we go for
Well,
these jobs? How
go
should we
after
apply
start
for these
go,
jobs?
start your own financial systems.
well,
We
well,
need
what
to
I would
support
do
our financial systems. Go ahead, Gary.
what
What
I
would you
would do
do?
is I would empower the young people to march in the street with signs
man,
saying that they need jobs.
Here we
I
go
mean,
again. Here
you
again.
know,
Here we
well
go again,
that
Gary.
I
But here we
mean
go again. We
it's not
shall
like marching,
overcome.
but
It's
it's not
always
like
in the
marching
future
never.
tense.
Yeah, but
Get
it's
rid
not
of the
like marching
song.
never worked.
Get rid of the
It's not.
song, Gary. Every
Yeah,
time we say
but
we shall overcome, that means we ain't there yet. Say
well,
we have
we're not
overcome.
there. We're not
Yes,
there.
we
That's why
are.
we're having this
If we see
conversation.
ourselves there, if we see ourselves there, yes, we are. Stop singing "We shall overcome." Marching,
Now,
marching for what?
yeah.
You're going to
Well,
Well,
it's
march
for
to
what's the
open up
jobs.
a new
It's for
banking
alternative?
jobs.
system. Take
It's for
that
What's
jobs.
the
It's
stimulus
just
money
like
alternative?
and open up black banks that I can go take a loan from. And that's what I would do with with the stimulus money and with that, what's that, restructured money? I forgot what Biden's calling it. I forgot. My mind had a brain. I got confused in my
infrastructure
own
money.
brilliance.
yeah.
There you go.
Well,
We
you
want
still
black
have to
banks in
you
our
still have
community. We want black banks, not just black
yeah.
businesses. We want black banks. We
But
want
you still
black
have to
financial
organize. You still have
institutions.
to organize. And one way to
It's already
organize is to
organized.
get the people together and you have to take to the streets because you can't sit on your
Nah,
laurels and expect things to change. So you have to take to the streets. If you don't take to the streets, they're gonna think, oh, they don't care. Oh, we keep doing what we're doing. The system can continue to run amok because
no,
they're not
Gary,
That's
seeing
what
I
we
us.
should
disagree.
They're
do.
not yeah.
You know,
Go ahead,
the success that
Jerome.
black people have experienced in this country did not come from marching in the streets. It came from building our own systems as Kathy Lee has said. When we had Black Wall Street and we had Black communities all over the country excelling, it was because Black people had no alternative but to support their own business, educate their own kids. And until we are educating our children and supporting our own businesses, and our businesses are the ones that hire Black people, not the system. The system wants to keep you underemployed or unemployed.
Right. And Jackie
So I
Robinson
don't,
broke the color barrier.
Okay,
All the
so
Negro
what's
leagues
this?
collapsed.
So what's the starting point
yeah, he
of
put more Blacks
becoming?
out of work than they got jobs.
Yeah, because you stated that the unemployment is going to end. Well, this show is September. Okay, we're this is going to end. Period. Whatever date is going to end, it's going to be over. So, what's going to happen after this last check people get that they're probably going to blow anyhow? Maybe, possibly, or there's some people that are going to be saving their money because they know that it's the last check. It's just like getting welfare, it's the same thing. So what are they gonna do with this money that they collect on the last check? How are they gonna make that last? Are they gonna be going back to the work world, or are they gonna just try to figure out another way? What do you think?
Well,
Well,
What's
a
gonna
Gary,
happen?
significant portion of them are going to go back to the workforce.
And
So
make that
how
eleven
significant?
dollars an hour. And make that
Yeah,
eleven
Yeah,
dollars
that
some
an
places
hour.
are already
$11
raising it.
stay.
okay. Now let me kick it up a notch now, because right now I'm just into the systems thinking thing. Who is pushing the people back to work? Who wanted a steak and a chicken and a pork chop that said all those people that worked in those meat factories, they're usually immigrants, they're underemployed, and they're foreigners, and they're just the people within communities that do not have a lot of political power or sway. Because someone wanted a steak, they said, open up the meat factories and send them people in there to cut my meat. I don't care if they drop dead from COVID, they sent them in there anyway. Now, what they're going to do is cut off the money. Why? Because they want these people. You can't sit home and collect money. You're sitting home, Tucker Carlson, and collecting money. Go eat a frozen TV dinner. Give out your frozen TV dinners. Why are we worrying about what to do with their own money? I'm not going to tell someone what to buy with their food stamps. That's called freedom. It's called freedom, folks. So if they've never had anything, if they don't understand financial literacy, so one of the things that I would say is you need to go back to educating people how to live debt free, how to manage money. But if you've never had money to manage, how the freak you think they're going to manage the freaking money? I'm not poor. I'm not wealthy. I'm not rich, but I'm comfortable. And I'm still scratching my head on how to balance my checkbook. But if you need things, if you never had things, Gary, people are going to go out and buy it. Everybody's worrying about what they're going to do when they get their last check. We are survivors. What they need to do is go out there and make sure they get some more checks. What they need to do is negotiate. And what the workers are doing now, they're saying, I'm not going back to that job when I can move up and get a better paying job. That's what they're doing. They have more political power now during this pandemic than they did before the pandemic. So I say squeeze the work, squeeze the corporations into paying them more. And guess what? They're finding out when they pay the people more, the people go back to work.
Yeah, that's
I'm
the
just
ticket.
saying.
That's the ticket. That is the ticket. But are they going to
And
use what they have in their hand? Like Adam Clayton Powell said, use what you have in your hand. That was his famous statement that he used to use. Use what you have in your hand. Are they going to use what they have in their hand or in their brain
Add
or
their head
whatever
too.
they
Add their
and that
head
yeah,
too.
their
Thank you,
brain.
Gary.
Their
Thank you,
brain,
Gary.
right. hmm
well,
Jerome?
again, if we used our money to support Black businesses, you go into the Black community, there are all kinds of businesses. There are Chinese restaurants, there are bodegas, there are check cashing places, and none of them are owned by Blacks, but we support them. So people have been coming into the Black community and extracting the resources for a while. Until we start supporting our own Black businesses, people are going to be coming into our community and exploiting it and taking out the resources.
Now, see,
The
you're saying
perception is that
exploiting them. I disagree with the word exploiting. I really do. They are, see, to me, what they do, my understanding of what they do, and I apologize, Jerome, for cutting you off, but what they do, my understanding is my other daughter is Laotian. They get together, they pool their money, they buy, and they open up a business. That's how they do it. They live in the same house, they pool their money. We've lost, some of us have lost that ability. When before integration came, like you said before, and Gary and Trudy said, everything was self contained within it. And
Correct.
then once integration came, it just exploded and pushed us all apart. And,
Mhm.
you know, the whole expression about Black people can't own anything, I really believe the origins of that expression has to come from when the race riots happened during the turn of the beginning of the century. When you own something, you aren't allowed to own it. How dare you rise above that caste system? You're being uppity if you own the business. And then we don't value the businesses that we have. We're not valuing it. We don't value it. And so what we need to do is, once again, observe, don't hate. They're working within a caste system where they make sure they're not at the bottom of the well. And so what we need to do is take the bottom of the well, fill it with water so it's at the bottom, rises to the top, like we always have.
You know, Kathy Lee, you're absolutely
Right.
right. And you alluded to the Red Summer 100 years ago. 100 years ago, during the Red Summer, there were many, many riots. There were almost between 40 and 45 cities that they were riots in America. But the majority of those riots were white people going into the Black community and destroying it.
Mhm.
Because Black people knew that they have to be independent and they have to be self-sufficient. But as they became more and more self-sufficient in America, Black Wall Street wasn't the only place that there was destruction. It happened in many other cities around the country. And Black people who had to resolve themselves to be self-sufficient, white people went in and destroyed many of those communities. And so we have to
I,
get back to that. We have to become self sufficient again. We have to support our own
I,
businesses and educate our own children.
All
mm,
right.
I walked.
Supporting.
I walked. Okay, sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Uh, I walked through South Street yesterday, and I had heard in Philadelphia, and I'm not from Philadelphia originally, that South Street used to be one of the strips that a lot of Black businesses and Black business owners controlled. South Street and Center City,
South Street.
Philadelphia.
How far back was
It,
that?
it, it was maybe
Because I
Jesse
thought when I
Smith,
30,
first
Jesse
30,
went out,
Smith.
30, 30, 30 years ago, maybe not even that far back.
Uh, I'm going to help you
No,
no,
it
out,
was going
Gary.
back
South
to the.
Street was a lot of Italian,
Well,
Irish, and
for in the
anything else,
fifties,
but Black.
South. I'm
Now,
talking
one
South
Black
Street.
business in South Street.
Keep going back
Uh,
further. Go back
a little
further.
further.
We're talking
Okay.
about the
Well,
19,
anyhow,
the great after during the
Go
Great
ahead.
Migration
What's your
time.
point?
But
okay.
there were
So
always
Right.
Africans
even
down that era.
right, and what I'm saying in essence is that what happened. So can that be?
Gentrification happened.
Well, I
Well,
still see a lot of Black
listen,
businesses there, but the mere fact that, yeah, gentrification is a part of it. So, what is it that makes us give up our properties when we know we got something? So, why do we try to reinvent the wheel when we could uh,
all right.
just do the
May
same
I
thing that we've
interject
been
here
doing?
for a moment? You mentioned in your discussion, folks, three things that are standing out. The first one, of course, is education. We just throw things away without looking into them, without thinking about them, without improving our knowledge about it. So that's one very important element. The second thing you've talked about is walk. Make yourself known. Say it out loud. Okay? And the third thing that you mentioned is to support our own businesses. I would like to start right there. Where are our own businesses today? Jerome, you mentioned those, and I think you have a good idea, but where are they?
Hmm.
And in various sectors, there is a black-owned business. There's a black-owned bank in Philadelphia. Um, there are black
Yes,
providers of healthcare in Philadelphia.
the black, wait,
Um,
let's go to that first one because that's important. The black-owned business still exists on Broad. It still
Well,
exists
the
on
yeah,
B,
Broad. It used to have branches. I don't know if they do now.
United
well,
Bank still exists.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. The United Bank, that's on Broad, but they don't have branches anymore, do they?
Well, they sure they have one down on 15th Street, right above Chestnut.
I don't remember I don't know, remember that. I'll look into that. But anyway, it's a good idea. We don't even bank with the one that we have.
yeah,
No,
but
you
in,
But
got
look
the
how we
but
were
Capital
all
One and the
stumped. Look
Chase.
how we were
Everybody,
all stumped. We look like deers in the headlight when you ask where are the black businesses. I'll be very look full disclosure. I know where there are some, but when you look at what Gary was talking about, South Street, Lombard, that's where Fortune lived. That's where all your free Africans live down in that ward. That's where they were. That's where Mother Bethel is. All of that stuff is down there. There have always been African Americans down there. But when you look at here's what I've learned. When they start changing of where you live, they start changing the people. And a little known historical fact, because I'm gonna lead into this. What happens when they gentrify a community? They know years in advance what they're going to do. Just like there's an expression called the fourth grade failure syndrome. They know if a child of color is not a proficient time he's 4, the next they're dusting its chair off for a prison seat. They understand that. That's part of what they're doing. With all of the businesses and everything that we're talking about now, they already know 30, 40, 50 years down the road how they're going to move these people out because real estate is always about 3 words: location, location, location. So they know 60 years in advance. What they need to do is get our hands on the plans, see what the plans are, and teach us to value where we live. But when you had redlining that depleted the houses and let them depredate and just fall apart, Gary, that's what happened to a lot of the black business and no open in those cities. They just redline could not get any loan, fix your property or anything. That's what happened to them. That's my understanding. Now, I'm sure there are other mitigating factors, but to me, that's basically what happened to a lot of the black businesses. Because just ride the R7 and you ride through North Philly. When those African Americans moved in there from after World War II, all of those were manufacturing jobs. They shut them all down and moved them all south. So you
well,
have to look why. The question is, why did they do it? It's to
yeah,
preserve their own wealth and the system.
right, and right, and we need to know that. But the thing is that just like let's take for instance, there's a documentary in Jamaica in the Caribbean. It's called Life and Debt, DEBT, right? What happened, the farmers were farming the land and they were providing the food for the population, but America started sending in goods that were 5 cents less than the
Yep,
goods
there you
that the
go.
farmers were producing in Jamaica. And the people, the population of the people that were black bought the goods that was imported because it was 5 cents less. So the farmers had to flush down their milk down the drains and all the things that they farmed, they had to get rid of because they were going to spoil. And that was the devaluation of Jamaica's culture right
And that's
there.
what they
That's an
always
example.
do. That's what you're
Well,
right.
we have
Gary, I'm glad you brought that up because that's what they do. Go ahead, Trudy. It's your
now unfortunately, we're gonna have to wrap it up, and I want your final thoughts. But education keeps. When I say education, everybody starts thinking about going to school. No, there are places like we have a radio station, WRT. We have newspapers still, but I don't see our people using those things. Scoop and Tribune, and we have other sources that we get information. And Kathy, I know you know some of those sources. Run them out.
Well, I'll talk about the radio stations. The black-owned radio stations or minority-owned radio stations are being decimated. They're all being bought up, and people are being pushed out. And the same thing
Well,
with
they didn't buy up
with television.
WRT yet.
Well, okay, so okay, so that now you're talking about the media system again, the media industry. So
We
we
have to
just
find
need
a way
to
to educate.
But there's
well,
One
another
of the things that
station.
one of the things I mention oftentimes is education. And I don't mean just general education, I mean specifically education, financial literacy, and education on how to grow and own our own businesses, whether that
Right,
business is farming or manufacturing or transportation, until we become self sufficient. And again, it's about education, man. You learn that stuff not in high school, you learn it starting at 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 years old. Financial literacy is not something that you wait to learn when you're about 25. You need to learn it at about 8 or 9 or 10, because whether you like it or not, you're part of the system, as Kathy Lee has talked about. And the way to
well,
break the
you are.
system is to start through literacy, literacy and learning,
Well,
education, and educate
I
our
can
own
tell
people.
you
That's the key.
education is very important. We're going to have to do it. We're going to have to talk about it more in those shows that'll be coming up Wednesday at 7:30 or 5:30. Be there. We'll see you with Trudy and Friends.